Hi, I'm Patrick, and welcome to this HTML series. In this HTML series, we'll be looking at HTML lists. Now, this video is dedicated to those who are beginning their journey in web development, those who want to brush up some of the concepts in HTML. And in this video, we'll be using VS Code as our code editor, and we'll be using Chrome as our default browser to preview our code. So today we're looking at HTML lists. Without wasting time, let's dive into it and look at what are HTML lists. So HTML lists, HTML lists are used to list items on a web page. So now listing items, there's several types of items you could list on a web page. So HTML lists has like three major types of HTML lists. And then there's the other bonus one that we'll also look at. So the first one is an ordered list. So unordered list, just as you hear the name unordered, is just to display items without a specific order. Now the items you'd want to display, but they maybe don't have a specific order. You could display them in any order. Okay. It could be maybe a shopping list, and you just want to say like, I'm going to buy milk, I'm going to buy bread, I'm going to buy vegetables. So they actually don't have to have a list to be able to, for you to be able to list those items. But there are also items that are ordered that you need to follow a certain order to be able to list them, to say that this is maybe, you could look at steps, anything that has steps, maybe you could use an ordered list. So we have an ordered list without an order, a specific order, and then we have ordered lists which have an order. So these are two different lists that you could use in HTML to display different items. And then we also have description list. Now description list display items alongside their description. It could be describing a set of terms alongside their corresponding description or definition. We'll also look at that. And then we'll also look at a bonus one at the end of the video. So without wasting time, let's dive and look at some of the examples. How could we display these items? So on our VS Code, we want to have sort of a title just to be organized. So we'll have an H1 that will say, we're looking at HTML list examples. That's our H1. And then we can have a comment because in this we are looking at an ordered list. So an ordered list. Okay, an ordered list example. So we said if you want to write a comment is something that will not be previewed on your browser because the browser sort of ignores it because it's a comment. So to write a comment, you need to press Shift Alt and letter A. Shift Alt letter A to have a comment on your HTML file when you're writing your HTML file. So we want to go to an ordered list. How do you write an ordered list? So let's have an H2 just to describe what we're doing. So in this, we'll have an ordered list example. Okay, that is our H2. And then now we want to write our list. So maybe we could preview this. We'll have our browser side by side. So to preview, you come here where it says port 5500 and then go to go live. When you do that, it will open our browser where we can preview our changes real time. It's taking long. It's coming. Okay. So we could have, so it has previewed HTML list examples. Now we are looking at an ordered list. So we want to have them side by side so that we're able to preview what we are doing on the other side. We can be able to see real time what we're doing on the other side. So we could stretch this on the side just to have it there. And then, yeah. So Now we want to look at an ordered list. How do you write an ordered list? So an ordered list, just as the name says, an ordered list. So you use UL and then it gives you UL, which is an ordered list. So within an ordered list, we have a list item. So a list item, which is LI, we tab LI. So probably what is our first item on the list? We could say we want to have a shopping list. Sorry, for this unordered list example, our H2 could actually describe exactly what the list will look like. So we could say our list will have a grocery shopping list. Okay, so that. And then what is our first item on this grocery shopping list? So we would have maybe milk is our first item. So when we preview that, you realize it gives us milk with that bullet point. So because this is an ordered list, it will give us a bullet point to show us that this is the first item in this list. And then we want to add more items in this list. So instead of writing afresh, we could duplicate this, and you would tab, you would press Shift Alt and then the down arrow to duplicate this. Now we want to have like 4. Again, Shift Alt down arrow, and then our next item we could say eggs, and then we also want bread, and then maybe we also want some vegetables. So now we have our unordered list. Okay. So probably a bonus point in this case would be like, take an example. We don't want bullet points here. Or sometimes we don't want any anything here. Mostly when we're looking at maybe navigation bars, we don't want anything like this. We just want it maybe like this and maybe style it with CSS or something like that. So you could customize this by styling using CSS. Now, this is just a bonus, but we're going to look at CSS. But we could say style and then say list style type. Now, the list style type, the default is disk, the one which is there. So if you say disk, you say there's no difference. But we could also have square. And when you do square, you realize these bullet points have turned to square. And then we could also have circle. Circle, you see these small circles as indented. Then you could also say none. Maybe you don't want anything to be listed. So it also removes that. So we can go back to default, remove the styles, and then we go back to default. And then it will give us the default of an ordered list. So yeah, that's an ordered list. If there are items on your web page that you need to list and they are not ordered, it is there. You could use an ordered list. So our next, we also want to look at ordered list. Okay, so ordered list example. Okay, so ordered list example, we could have our H2, and our H2 would be what could we look at as an example of ordered list? So we would say steps maybe to bake a cake. So we would say steps to bake a cake. Now I'm not good at baking cakes, but we could just look at something like what are the basic steps probably for baking cake. And in this case, we would say, okay, this is going to be our ordered list. Now ordered list will be OL, and then the list items within the ordered list will be LI. So what's the first step when we're baking a cake? So I'm going to have just certain steps. They might not be correct because I'm not good at baking cakes. But the first step probably would be preheat the oven. So we would say preheat the oven. Now I do not know how many degrees you need to preheat the oven to be able to bake a good cake. Another step would be LI. Another step would be mix the dry ingredients together. That could be the dough that you're using to make this thing. So mix the dry ones, maybe the flour and all that. So we'd say mix the dry ingredients together. That's our second step. Then our third step, we could also say add the wet ingredients, add the wet ingredients and combine. Okay. Now, third step would probably be pour the butter into the baking tin. Pour the butter into the baking tin, and then the last step would be bake for maybe 30 minutes. I'm just assuming bake for 30 minutes. So when we enter that, you see steps to bake a cake, and you realize this ordered list is actually ordered. The first item on the list is 1, the second item is 2, 3, up to 5. Why? Because these are steps. We choose to use the ordered list because these are steps, and you have to follow the steps if you are to make a cake, in this case. So that's the difference between an ordered and ordered list. Ordered lists have steps that you need to follow, and you need to number them. Okay. So that's it. We could look at that. And then we also have the third type of list, which is the description list. Description lists. Okay, so in the description list, just as we mentioned earlier, description lists, this describe a set of terms alongside their corresponding description or definition. So it displays the item with their description, okay, and they're always indented, as we will see. So we could look at an example of web development languages. So we had our H2 and say web development languages. That's what we want to look at in our description list. So the description list, just as you can see, it will start with DL, that's description list. And then we'll have something called DT, which is the description term. So what is our description term? Our description term in this case, we want to start with HTML, okay? And then after the description term, we have a description. We have our description definition. So in that description, maybe we need to add a definition, like what does HTML mean? So we could give an HTML meaning, which is hypertext markup language. And we could add some definition into that and say, maybe this is used to structure the web page. So say used to structure the web page. Would say Alt Z. So yeah, so our first description list is telling us that HTML, which is our description term, and then we have a description detail, which is telling us hypertext markup language used to structure the web page. So you can see the DT is here, which is HTML, and then the DD is indented. Okay. And then we could also look at another one. We could look at another one. Maybe the other description term is also, let's say, CSS. So CSS, we give it a DD. And then what is CSS? CSS is cascading style sheets. Okay, and this These are used to style the web page. Okay, when you enter that, you realize now CSS cascading style sheet. As you can see, it's indented as the first one. And at the third one, we could say description term, we say JavaScript. Okay, then we have the DD. And we could say JavaScript programming language that adds interactivity to the web page. We would say a programming language that is used to add interactivity to the web page. So that is an example of a description list. So we also want to look at the other third one that I was telling you is going to be our bonus one, which is also very important. And this is the nested lists. So nested lists, we could say nested lists are lists within another list. This is a list within another list. So it's nested within another list. So we want to look at an example of that. So we'd say nested list example. So nested lists would say H2 and say, what would be an example of a nested list that we could look at? We could look at a restaurant menu. Okay, a restaurant menu. Okay, so the nested lists, you could mix all these lists together. You can mix the ordered list and unordered list together and nest them together. And we're going to look at how do we do that? Like, how do we nest them together? So we could say that we have probably an ordered list. Okay, so within an ordered list, we have the li item, the list item, and the first list item we would call it maybe these are status. Okay, maybe these are status. And within the status, we also have a list within the status because there are different kind of status that when you go to a restaurant, maybe you have different type of soups that this restaurant serves. So within the status, we also have a list. So we want to have another list within the status. And in this case, we'll have maybe an ordered list and say within that unordered list, we have a list item. And maybe they say we have vegetable soup. And probably we have another list item of maybe chicken mushroom soup. Okay, chicken mushroom soup. Okay, so when we enter that, you realize uh, our unordered list had a list item of starters, but within the starters, there are also different kind of starters that this restaurant serves. So within that, we also nested another unordered list to give us different starter this restaurant serves. So that's why we have here, it is indented, so the starters first, and then it is indented with the circles, vegetable soup, chicken mushroom soup. Maybe we could also add something in this starter, probably let's say garlic bread. So garlic bread now is our third item in the starters. Now you realize that the different starter menu is nested within the starters list. So we also want to see what if we have another, so this is just starters, but we also have another list item apart from starters. Maybe now we have, let's say, we also serve main courses. We don't only serve starters. We have another list item, and we could call this main courses. Okay, So under the main courses, we also want to list different main courses. In this case, maybe we would use an ordered list to list this. So within the ordered list, would have a list item, and in the main course, maybe we have grilled chicken. Okay. Apart from grilled chicken, maybe we also serve we also serve Hawaiian pizza, which is actually my favorite. So that's it. So let's look at this. So the main courses we have now grilled chicken and Hawaiian pizza. So as you see here, another list item is nested here, which is the main courses. And now we are nesting an ordered list. We are nesting an ordered list, which is listed. The first item is grilled chicken and the Hawaiian pizza. So realize we're nesting different items within one list. So this is termed as what as nested lists. Maybe we could also add something else and maybe call this vegetable. We can call it vegetarian. Let's not do the vegetarians behind vegetarian pasta. So that's our third item. And then we could also nest another list. Okay. We could also nest another list. So we can come here and say we also want to nest desserts. After we've had our starter, we've had our main course. We also want to have a dessert, probably. So under desserts, we could have something like we can have another list under desserts. So we could now go back to our unordered list. And the unordered list will have a list item. The first item would say we also want to have ice cream. Ice cream. The other would be chocolate cake. Okay. So now we have desserts here, and we have ice cream and chocolate cake. So this is how nested lists are. This is how nested lists work. Like you have lists within a list, and you're actually able to display them. Lists allow you to do this, and you're able to display them on your web page. So basically, that was that about lists. And lists are very important. The only thing is you need to know before you start, before you choose which type of list to use, know exactly what you want to display. Are those steps that maybe need an order? Is it you're working with something that actually doesn't need an order? Is it you want to display things that have a description? Probably you have an acronym and you want to have a description of it below it. It probably indents for you, and you're able to display that properly on your web page. Okay, so basically that was that. This brings you to the end of this video, and please continue practicing. Just pick different lists, like practice all these different type of lists that we've looked at here. Go create your own HTML file, write, preview, keep learning, and see that you're also progressing in this HTML series. But apart from that, wish you all the best. And we've come to the end of this video. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this video with your loved ones, with your friends, with those who are starting up their journey in web development. And yeah, till we meet in the next video. In the next video, we'll be looking at HTML forms and inputs, which is very important also in this HTML series, that you need to learn how to work with forms and inputs. But for now, find an example, practice. Okay. All right. We'll meet again. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.